Hello everyone, I am Vivek Nahadia. I am a chartered accountant company secretary and currently I am pursuing LLB. I am partner in Hari Agarwal and Associates, Chartered Accountants, Hyderabad. I hope that you find this video useful. Thank you for watching. Hi. Today we'll talk about survey under Income Tax Act. The topics that we will be discussing today are survey and its purpose, what are the types of survey, TDS survey, power of survey to be made applicable to charitable institutions, authorities empowered to conduct survey, who are the authorities empowered to conduct survey, jurisdiction of the income tax authority for conducting the survey, what is their jurisdiction, places where the survey can be conducted, time for commencement of survey, power to verify books of accounts and other documents, power to verify cash, stock and any other valuable articles or things, power to obtain information from a person, power to record a statement, power to take recourse to section 131 subsection 1, which is summons, acts which are not permitted during a survey, limited powers of the income tax inspector, rights of the taxpayer during survey. What are the rights of the taxpayer? Obligations. What are the obligations of the taxpayer? We'll talk about recording of statement. Can the assessee retract from the statement made by him at the time of survey? The income tax authorities cannot record confessional statements from the assessee. How can they use the information or statements obtained from the assessee? Discrepancies found during verification of stock, cash, presumption. What is the presumption as to the books of accounts? When can a survey be converted into search? What are various issues in survey? What is the post-survey exercise, assessment procedure? What are the remedies after survey assessment? Applicability of penalty under section 271 1C in respect of concealment of income. This is up to assessment year 16-17. From assessment year 17-18 onwards, 270A section will be applicable. We'll talk about illegal survey. What is the implications of survey on GST? Survey under section 133A subsection 5. So these are the 32 topics that we will be discussing today. This is an in-depth video on survey under Income Tax Act. So first we'll talk about survey and its purpose. These are the basics of survey. Survey provisions are dealt in section 133A of the Income Tax Act. The word survey has not been defined in the Income Tax Act, but the dictionary meaning of survey is careful, critical and detailed inspection or examination, scrutiny and valuation. So section 133A deals with provisions of survey, but definition of survey is not given under the Income Tax Act. It means careful and critical examination. Now we will watch a small video on a practical scenario of how survey is conducted. Let us say that suppose at 1 o'clock in the afternoon the department officers enter the business premises of the SSE. As soon as they enter, some officers go to the accounts department of the SSE to verify the books of accounts. Some officers go to the cash counter to verify the physical cash available with the SSE and match them with the books of accounts. That is, the physical cash should match with the cash shown as on the date of survey in the books of accounts. If they find any discrepancies, then the SSE has to explain the reason for the discrepancies. Some of the officers go and verify the stock available at the premises of the SSE. This stock verification is done by matching the quantity as well as the amount of the physical stock available with the stock shown as per the books of accounts of the SSE. If there are any discrepancies, then the SSE has to explain the reasons for the same. Then, after verifying the books of accounts, after verifying the cash, stock, the department officers have discussions with the SSE's team and the SSE, and the SSE will explain the reasons for any discrepancies found or any other questions asked by the officers. Then the departmental officers will record a statement of the SSE. Then, suppose at night 3 o'clock, they leave the premises of the SSE. There is restriction for the time of entry for survey, that is, the department officers can enter the business premises of the SSE only during the business hours, but there is no condition for exit. That means the department officers can exit at any time. So at night, the department officers are leaving the premises of the SSE after survey. So this is the practical scenario, that they enter the business or professional premises of the SSE, they verify the books of accounts, they verify cash, they verify stock, they have discussions with the SSEs, they record the statement of the SSE, and then they exit the shop. That is the business premises. Let us continue now. So, survey is basically of two types: survey under section 133A and survey under section 133B. Survey under section 133B is survey to collect information. This is also called as door-to-door survey. This is not quite common nowadays. Not talking about section 133A, it is about survey of business or profession of the SSE. Section 133A-2A, it is survey of TDS or TCS. Then we will talk about survey at charitable institutions. Then section 133A subsection 5, survey at functions and ceremonies. Now, what are the objectives of survey? What are the objectives of survey? The objective is to check whether the SSE is maintaining books of accounts or not, whether the transactions, all the transactions are recorded in books of accounts or not. Survey is done for the collection of information, for verification of cash, stock or other valuable articles. So what is the relevance of this word other valuable article? It includes anything which is not covered here. That is, cash is included, stock is covered. So any other asset or any other thing, any other valuable article which is not included in this can be covered under other valuable article. So this is a very broad line which the section has inserted. Now what are the types of survey? Types of survey, there are two types of survey. One is internal survey and the other one is external survey. First we'll talk about what is internal survey. In internal survey, the department gets information from banks, from clubs, from mutual funds, from stock brokers, from sub-registrar offices. For example, from banks the department gets information through AIR information. We know the conditions that are prescribed in AIR information. The department gets information from sub-registrar's office. For example, when an SSC registers any property for more than 30 lakhs, or if the stamp valuation authority values the property at or above 30 lakhs, then the sub-registrar's office will give information to the department that so and so person has registered this property, and the department will compare whether this property has been shown in your return of income or not. So by this the department gets to know the information from so many parties. What is external survey? In external survey there are two sections, section 133A and section 133B. 133A is about survey at business or profession. It is on a specific taxpayer and it is conducted at business or profession premises of the SSC. It cannot be conducted at residence of the SSC. This is the major difference between survey and search. There is hell lot of confusion among the SSCs that whenever survey is conducted, they consider it as search. They call it as raid. But there is huge difference between survey and search. In survey, the powers of the department is limited. In search, the department has more powers when compared to survey. Like in this case, in survey, the survey can be conducted only at the business or professional premises of the SSC. The department officers cannot go to the residence of the SSC. Whereas in case of search, the department will simultaneously visit the residence, will simultaneously visit all the branches of the SSC or any other places where the SSC operates his business. So we can understand that this is like, if search is so broad, survey is only a part of it. So continuing our discussion, proof of tax evasion is not required for conducting survey. In door-to-door survey, this is done to find out new SSCs who are avoiding to file IT returns. We'll talk about TDS survey. TDS survey is done for verifying whether the SSC is complying with TDS or TCS provisions or not. What is the time of entry? The time of entry is after sunrise but before sunset. What are the powers of the officers conducting TDS survey? They can inspect the books of accounts, they can put marks of identification, they can extract copies, they can record the statement of the SSC. But what they cannot do? They cannot impound the books of accounts, they cannot take inventory of cash, they cannot take inventory of stock, etc. Survey at charitable institutions. We'll watch a short video to understand this. Survey under section 133A is conducted at the business or professional premises of the SSC. For our example, we can take like AB Jewellers. So survey can be conducted at the business premises of AB Jewellers. Or can the survey be conducted at the residence of AB Jewellers? The answer is no. So survey cannot be conducted at residence. Under what circumstances can survey be conducted even at the residence of the SSC? If books of accounts of the business or cash or stock of the business is kept at the residence of the SSC or any other place of the SSC, then survey can be extended to such place. Generally, survey will be conducted at the business or professional premises of the SSC and it cannot be conducted at residence of the SSC. But if SSC keeps books of accounts, cash or stock at the residence, then survey authorities have power to visit the residence for verifying the books of accounts, cash or stock which is kept at the residence. Now, survey at charitable institutions. Earlier, survey was not allowed to be conducted at charitable institutions. But now survey can be conducted after the amendment. Survey can be conducted at the charitable institutions as well. This was the concept of survey at charitable institutions. Now, who are the authorities empowered to conduct survey? Who can conduct survey? The principal commissioner, commissioner, joint commissioner, principal director, director, joint director, deputy director or assistant director, assessing officer including deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, income tax officer, tax recovery officer, inspector. But these persons can conduct survey after taking permission from these officers. We will discuss in the slides to come that the inspector has only limited powers under survey. He has limited powers. Now we'll talk about the jurisdiction of the income tax authority. Jurisdiction is of three kinds. Like we can say, number one is geographical jurisdiction, assessment jurisdiction, and jurisdiction by authorization. We'll understand this with an example. Suppose for example, we can take that we have Taj Krishna Hotel at Banjara Hills. So the officer, income tax officer, having jurisdiction over Taj Krishna Banjara Hills is called geographical jurisdiction. Clear? Suppose the head office of Taj Krishna Banjara Hills is situated in Mumbai. So the officer in Mumbai having the jurisdiction over the head office of Taj Krishna Mumbai has jurisdiction over Taj Krishna Hyderabad as well. This is called assessment jurisdiction. And any other officer who is authorized by either a person, either the officer having assessment jurisdiction or by the officer having geographical jurisdiction. If any of these officers authorize any other third officer, this officer doesn't have geographical jurisdiction nor he has assessment jurisdiction, but either of these two officers authorize him to conduct survey. So this is called jurisdiction by authorization. So this is geographical jurisdiction, assessment jurisdiction, and jurisdiction by authorization. So geographical jurisdiction is place within the limits of areas assigned. Officer having jurisdiction over Taj Krishna Hyderabad. Assessment jurisdiction, any place occupied by person on whom he exercises jurisdiction. Any place. So officer of Bombay having jurisdiction over head office of Taj Krishna in Bombay has jurisdiction over Taj Krishna Hyderabad as well. Any place occupied by person on whom he exercises jurisdiction. That officer exercises jurisdiction over head office of Taj Krishna in Bombay, and this head office occupies any other place, that any other place is Hyderabad. So that officer has jurisdiction over Hyderabad also. He doesn't have jurisdiction, but he is authorized by ITA who has jurisdiction, either by officer having geographical jurisdiction or by officer having assessment jurisdiction. This is about jurisdiction. Now I will talk about places where survey can be conducted. Survey can be conducted at the place of business or profession of the assessee. Survey can be conducted at any other place or residence or any other place of the assessee. Can survey be conducted at the premises of a third party like chartered accountant, etc.? We'll talk about that. Place of business or profession. First one, place of business or profession. What is the meaning of place of business or profession? We are saying that survey can be conducted only at the place of business or profession. So first we should understand what is the meaning of business or profession. Business or profession means the principal place of business. The principal place of business, or factory Survey can be conducted at factory also. Survey can be conducted at your godown also, or at any branch. Or survey can even be conducted at places where goods are processed, at places where goods are manufactured, or at places where goods are stored. So survey can be conducted at any of these premises, any or all of these premises. This is place of business or profession. Let's talk about the second point, which is residence or any other place. As a general rule, survey cannot be conducted at the residence or any other premises of the SSC. But there is an exception. As we have seen in the video, survey can be conducted at residence or any other place when SSC during the survey states that the books of accounts of business or stock or cash are kept at such other premises. Then the survey authorities get powers to visit the residence and verify the books of accounts, cash, stock kept at such other premises. But the important point here is they won't have access to all the data available at the residence of the SSC, because SSC might have his personal data as well. So the department officers cannot touch the personal accounts of the SSC. They can only touch the books of accounts, cash or stock related to business. So their power is restricted to the books of accounts, cash or stock which are related to business. Impounding: the personal assets of the SSC or his family members cannot be touched by the department. Only the books of accounts which are relating to business or profession can be touched, can be verified by the department. Suppose this is a practical case where we find that some of the SSCs do business from their house itself. Suppose some area of the house they use for business, doing their business or profession. So what will be the powers of the department in this scenario? In the house, business is carried on as long as business is carried on, and the SSC uses the same house for residence also. So survey will be conducted at portion of the residence which is used for business. So this portion is used by the SSC for business. So survey can be conducted only for this portion. The department officers though enter the shop or the business premises, they do not have powers to visit the other areas of the house. So it is SSC's duty to clearly demarcate that this portion of residence I am using for my business and the rest of the portion of my residence I am using for my personal purposes. If the SSC does this in his own interest, the department officers won't have power to enter these areas. And this must be substantiated by the SSC by showing a rental deed, etc. But as we have discussed earlier, survey will be conducted here, no doubt. Survey will be conducted here, but the department officers will get access to these areas also if the SSC during the course of survey of business premises states that the books of accounts, stock, cash, etc. are kept at these areas of the residence. Then the department officers get power to enter these areas, but again their powers will be restricted to the books of accounts, cash, stock related to business only. Survey at other portions of residence if books of accounts, etc. are kept there. Time for commencement of survey. What is the time for commencement of survey? Survey at business or profession of the SSE. The entry can be done only during the business hours. There is no condition for exit. Exit can be done anytime. And the business or profession can continue normally. What about the time for commencement of survey at any other place? At any other place, the entry is after sunrise and before sunset. There is no condition for exit here also. So for business and profession, the entry is business hours. Any other place, entry is after sunrise and before sunset. Exit for both is same, that is anytime. Now we will discuss what are the powers of the income tax authorities during survey. They have power to verify books of accounts and other documents of the SSE which are related to business. We have to see what are the objectives of verification of books of accounts. The objective is to check whether the SSE is maintaining books of accounts properly or not, whether the SSE is updating the books of accounts daily or not, whether the SSE is recording all the transactions in the books of accounts or not, whether there are documentary evidences for deductions, tax exemptions, expenditures which the SSE is claiming are supported by proper documentary evidences or not. For the assets that is movable or immovable, the SSE must have the documentary evidence and these must be recorded in books of accounts. Now, initiation of penalty proceedings. When will the penalty proceedings be initiated? If the SSE is required to maintain books of accounts mandatorily, but the SSE is not maintaining, then the penalty can be initiated. Identification marks. The department officers can put date and signature on the documents that they have verified. This ensures that same books of accounts are produced during assessment. They can even take extracts or copies from the books of accounts. Impounding of books of accounts and other documents. We'll discuss about impounding now. The department officers can do the impounding, but there is a specific procedure for it. First, they have to record reasons as to why they are impounding, what is the need for impounding the books of accounts of the SSE. And these reasons must be specific and sufficient. These reasons cannot be vague, like books impounded for verification or books impounded for further scrutiny. They must specifically mention as to why they are impounding the books of accounts. These general reasons cannot be mentioned. For verification, there is no restriction. For impounding, there is restriction, like they have to record the reasons. So, the books of accounts and other documents, impounding of books of accounts and other documents is allowed. But impounding of cash, stock or any other article or thing is not allowed. Here is one more difference between survey and search. In survey, cash cannot be impounded. In search, cash can be impounded. But there is an important point here that whether it is survey or search, stock cannot be impounded in survey, stock cannot be impounded in search. So impounding of books of accounts is allowed. Up to 15 days of impounding, no problem. If the department wants to impound the books of accounts for a period more than 15 days, then they have to take prior approval of the principal chief commissioner or chief commissioner, principal director general or director general, or principal commissioner or commissioner, or principal director or director. If they want to impound the books of accounts up to 15 days, no problem. More than 15 days, they have to take prior approval. And SSC is entitled to get a copy of this prior approval. They have power to verify cash, stock, and any other valuable articles or things. They have power to obtain information from persons. So from whom the information can be obtained? They can obtain the information from either the proprietor or partner in case of a partnership firm, or director in case of a company. They can obtain information from employee or any other person who is available at the premises of business or profession and who is attending or helping in carrying on business or profession. They can ask information from the proprietor or the employee or any other person who is just assisting or helping in conduct of business. But there is an important point here. It is that the tax authorities cannot expect a shop assistant. They cannot expect a shop assistant to provide information regarding books or assets. They should ensure that the person from whom the information is expected must be capable of providing the information. The information that they are asking the person must be capable of replying to that information asked. Power to record a statement. Regarding recording of statements, we will discuss this in detail in the 18th point. Power to take recourse to section 131 subsection 1. This is summons. If any person refuses or evades, so if any person refuses or evades, it becomes a precondition for issuing summons. So it is very important to understand the meaning of refuses or evades. If any person refuses or evades to afford facility to the survey team, then summons can be invoked. So what is the meaning of refuses or evades? Refuses or evades mean a willful act. It is intentional act. It is a willful act of refusal. Willful act should be distinguished from inability or ignorance. The non-compliance can be due to genuine reasons or might be intentional also. So it is important to know whether the non-compliance is for genuine reasons or intentional. For example, not every person has knowledge about the question. It is practically impossible that every person present at the business or professional premises of the SSC at the time of survey will have knowledge about every question. For example, employee may or may not have knowledge regarding books or entries that are recorded in the books of accounts. A proprietor or partner, though have knowledge, may for reasons beyond control express inability. A proprietor or partner may have knowledge, but some reasons might be there which are beyond their ability. For example, documents are kept in a safe and the keys are in possession of a senior partner who is out of station. This can happen. So though the other partner is capable of providing the information, the documents related to the question asked are kept in a safe and the keys are with the other partner who is out of station. So this is a genuine reason. So the department has to understand whether there is genuine reason or not. If the SSC does not cooperate with the department, non-cooperation, the income tax authority can do the inspection without the help of the SSC, and this non-cooperation will lead to summons under section 131 subsection 1. Non-compliance of summons may lead to penalty of ₹10,000 for each such default, and survey can also be converted into search. What are the acts which are not permitted during a survey? The department cannot seal the business premises of the SSC. Sealing of premises is not permitted either partially or wholly. Sealing is not at all allowed. No seizure and retention of cash, stock and other valuable articles or things. As I said earlier, in survey, nothing can be seized except the books of accounts. That too, they must first record the reasons for that. Whereas in case of search, the cash can also be seized. Cash or any other valuable article or things can be seized. Stock cannot be seized whether it is a survey or search. Restriction on power to break open premises, lockers, drawers, and they cannot ingress through windows as well. So the department officers cannot break open the premises or lockers of the SSCs. But this doesn't mean that the SSC keeps the keys somewhere or hides and does not cooperate with the department. With an understanding that the department officers cannot break open the lockers, because that would lead to non-compliance then. No power to restrict entry or exit of any person during survey. The department officers cannot restrict entry or exit of any person during survey. Taxpayers and persons present in survey premises cannot be restrained from use of telephones or any other means of communication like email, internet, WhatsApp. So they can keep using their email, internet, WhatsApp, phones. The department officers cannot pressurize SSC to declare or surrender any specific amount of income. They cannot bring the books of accounts, documents, stock, cash, etc. kept at any other place to the place of survey. They do not have power to arrest any person. They cannot demand collection of tax. If the income tax authority finds any undisclosed income, can they demand tax on the spot? No, they cannot demand. Can they use such information in proceedings? Yes, they can. Now we'll discuss about what are the limited powers of the income tax inspector. An inspector can conduct a survey only when he is authorized. What are his powers? He can inspect the books of accounts of the SSC. He can place marks of identification on the books of accounts. He can take copies of any books of accounts or other documents. Or in case of section 133A subsection 5, that is survey at functions or ceremonies, he can obtain information. But he does not have power of recording statement. He cannot record statement under section 133A, that is survey of business or professional premises of the SSC, but he has power to record a statement under section 133A subsection 5, that is survey at functions or ceremonies. The inspector cannot impound the books of accounts. The inspector cannot take inventory of cash, stock, or other valuable article or thing. Now we will discuss about what are the rights of the taxpayer during survey. What are the rights of the taxpayer? The taxpayer has the right to identify the identity of the authorities and their authorization to carry on survey. Right to have a counsel during survey. There is an important question that whether the counsels of the SSC, that is his tax consultant or a chartered accountant, can these people enter the premises of the SSC while the survey is being conducted? So the answer is there is no express prohibition regarding this. So the taxpayer can request to call his CA when the survey is being conducted, but it is the duty of the CA to ensure that he does not interfere in the survey proceedings of the department or while recording of statement. So what is the use of a CA to be there? The CA can help the SSC in preparing provisional financial statements from 1st April to the date of survey. The provisional financial statements can be prepared, and these provisional financial statements can be tallied with the physical stock, physical cash, that is physical verification. So these provisional financial statements will be verified with physical verification, and if any differences are noticed, the differences can be reconciled. So CA can help in reconciling the differences found. Why is this important? Because this will avoid unnecessary litigation for the SSC with the department. If they can resolve the differences on the spot, then the SSC, the department will not take a different view on it, and a lot of litigation will be avoided on the spot. As I have discussed earlier, if the department wants to impound the books of accounts or any other documents, they have to first record reasons as to why they are impounding the books of accounts. The SSC is entitled to get a copy of these reasons, and the SSC must ensure that he obtains copy of such reasons, because this will help him in representing the cases during the time of assessment. SSC has right to have a copy of approval for retention of books beyond a period of 15 days. As I have said earlier, up to 15 days there is no problem to impound the books. Beyond 15 days, the officers have to take prior approval. The SSC is entitled to get a copy of this prior approval. Right to obtain copy of statement made during the survey and impoundment material. The SSC, the department officers can record a statement of a SSC, recording of statement, and the SSC can get a copy of the statement. The department can impound the books of accounts or any other material, and the SSC is entitled to get a copy of the impounded material. because all these copies that the assessee will take will help him in representing the cases at the time of assessment, because there is a tendency that he might forget what he has said in the statement or what document they have impounded. So it is in the best interest of the assessee to take a copy of those impounded material and the statement. And the income tax authorities also cannot deny it. Try to carry on the business in its normal course even during survey. There is no provision in the Act which says that the business of the assessee must be interrupted while the survey is being conducted. But practically what happens is, while the survey is conducted, the assessee avoids the running of business and he focuses completely on the department. But there is no such provision in the Act to stop the regular business of the assessee. We have discussed about the rights of the taxpayer. Now we will discuss what are the obligations of the taxpayer during survey. It is the duty of the assessee to provide books of accounts and other documents to the department for verification, to facilitate verification of cash, stock and any other valuable articles or thing, to explain the discrepancies so that no undue or unwarranted inferences are drawn. While recording of statement, the assessee must ensure that the statement recorded is correct. If the department officers record the statement from other than competent person, from an incompetent person, then the assessee must mention this on the statement. Now we will discuss about the recording of statement during survey. For this, we have a short video about the provisions for recording of statement. Let us start. Income tax authorities record statement from the assessee, and the assessee can be either the proprietor or partner or director in case of a company. They can record the statement from any employee of the assessee. They can record the statement from any other person who is helping or assisting the assessee in conducting his business. So assessee can be a proprietor, partner or director. Assessee can be an employee or any other person. So what are the questions that are asked while recording statement? The questions that are asked are related to the business or profession of the assessee and which will be useful for the assessee during the proceedings. Such statement, if it has corroborative evidence, then it will have evidentiary value. But if such statement is recorded without corroborative evidence, then it doesn't have any evidentiary value. So, the statement with corroborative evidence has evidentiary value, and the statement without corroborative evidence does not have any evidentiary value. Such statement, if it is recorded in case of survey, it does not have evidentiary value because it is not on oath. Whereas in case of search, it has evidentiary value. In survey, it is not on oath. That's why it is not having any evidentiary value. If the SSC gives any statement against any third party, then opportunity of cross-examination must be provided. If it is not, the statement is not against any third party, there is no question of cross-examination. So this is a short video about recording of statement. Now, what is the procedure for recording of statement? The statement can be recorded even before, during, or after the survey. The statement must be recorded in a language which is understood by the taxpayer. If the language is not understood by the taxpayer, suppose the SSC does not know English and the statement is recorded in English, then before the statement is signed, the contents of the statement must be explained to the SSC. Moreover, the contents must be clear and unambiguous. The statement should not contain any conclusions or inferences of tax authorities. The statement should not contain any conclusions of the tax authorities. Statement under section 133A cannot be recorded on oath, because a statement can be recorded on oath only in case of search. If a person refuses to have his statement recorded, then summons can be issued. Section 131, subsection 1. Statement on oath can be obtained under section 131 consequent to summons. If the SEC does not cooperate or is not willing to provide statement, then powers of section 131 can be invoked, and under section 131 the statement of the SSC can be recorded on oath. Then this will have evidentiary value. What is the purpose of the statement? The purpose of the statement is to record the information verified and inspected and to rely on the same in any proceedings. If the statement is obtained under promise or inducement, that is, the department officers say that they give an assurance to drop any penalty proceedings or not to reopen any pending assessment, or they try to threaten the SSC, then it won't have any evidentiary value. What is the importance of presence of witness at the time of recording of statement? As per the Act, there is no mandatory provision that while recording of statement, any witness must be present. But if any independent party is present, then it adds evidentiary value to the statement. Retraction of statement made by the SSC. The SSC has made a statement and afterwards he wants to retract from the statement which he has made. Can he do so? If the SSC has made the statement voluntarily and there is evidence to support it, then the statement will be binding on the SSC. If the statement is recorded under coercion, then the SSC has to prove that force or coercion was used and he has to retract from the statement without delay. No confessional statement can be obtained during survey without documentary evidence. As we have seen in the video, the statement on a standalone basis does not have any evidentiary value. The statement must be supported by adequate evidence, then it will have evidentiary value. So, the CPDT has directed the department to focus on obtaining the evidence rather than focusing on recording of statement. Because anyways, if you record the statement of the SSC without having the evidence, then obviously it won't have any evidentiary value and the whole effort of doing these things will be a waste. So the CPDT has directed the department to focus on collection of evidence rather than just recording the statement of the SSC. So CPDT White Circular dated 18th December 2014 said that statements, if they are not backed by credible evidence, the statements are recorded without evidence, then it would mostly be retracted. Then the SSC will retract the statement and the whole effort of obtaining such statement would not be fruitful. So they have asked the department to concentrate on collection of evidence which may point out income that has been undisclosed or would be undisclosed. Use of information statements obtained during survey proceedings. Pending proceedings. The information which is obtained in survey, for example, in survey it is found that assets do not exist, then the SSC, then the depreciation claimed by the SSC can be disallowed. Reopening of assessments. Survey was conducted and information relating to previous years, example, investment made in previous years is found, and it is found that such investment is not disclosed in the return of income, then the earlier assessments can be reopened now. Now we will discuss the discrepancies found during verification of stock and cash. Excess. Excess means what? Whether cash or stock. How do they verify? They verify the physical cash or physical stock with the books of accounts. Correct? And they compare these two. Now what do we mean by excess? We mean to say that the physical verification, the cash found during physical verification is more than the cash recorded in books of accounts. So whatever excess cash is found, it will be treated as income. Whatever excess stock is found will also be treated as income. What about shortage? The cash, physical cash is less and the cash shown as per books of accounts is more. Then in this case, for cash, there is not a big issue because the SSC can explain that yes, he has made some drawings or he has incurred some expenditures which are not recorded in the books of accounts. So shortage is not a big issue for cash. Excess is important because if excess cash is found, then it will be treated as income. What about shortage of stock? That is, physical stock is less than the stock shown as per the books of accounts. So first we have to see whether the purchases, whether the corresponding purchases have been recorded or not. If the purchases are recorded, then it means that the sales is outside the books of accounts, that the sales are not recorded in the books of accounts. So what the department does is the percentage of profit on such sales will be treated as income. On this shortage, the department applies percentage of profit and it treats the amount as income. In this also there will be an issue. SSC will say that use net profit percentage. Department will say that we will use gross profit percentage. If the purchases are not recorded, then for sales, as I discussed here, same percentage of profit will be applied on sales and that will be treated as income. Clear? For purchases, the investments are itself not recorded, so there will be addition in respect of investment, and this will be calculated on the basis on the concept of peak investment. So I just repeat, excess cash will be treated as income, excess stock will be treated as income. Excess is clear, very simple. What about shortage? Shortage cash, no problem, because the SSC can explain that I have used the cash but have not recorded in books of accounts. But shortage of stock, we have to first check whether the purchases have been recorded or not. If the purchases have been recorded, then the sales are not recorded in the books of accounts. Percentage of profit is applied on the sales and that income is treated as, that amount is treated as income. If the purchases are not recorded, then for the portion of purchases it is treated as addition of investment, and for sales it will be, for unrecorded sales, a percentage of profit will be applied and that amount will be taken and treated as income. Discrepancy between stock declared to bank and stock shown in records. SACs are required to declare the stock that they have to the banks, and they are required to, for survey also they are required to show the stock to the department. So there is a general tendency that when the SSC shows the stock records to the banks, they try to inflate it or show correct figures. Or when the same information, when they are required to provide to the department, they try to reduce the figures. So this is an issue now. And the SSC cannot escape by saying that this is a trade practice where I am inflating or increasing the stock when I am giving the information to the bank, or the stock when I am information that I am giving to the IT department, I am reducing the values. But there are various case laws which are in favor of the SEC also, which are in favor of the department as well. Discovery of undisclosed turnover. This is same like sales. So this we have already discussed in case of shortage of that the sales which are not recorded in the earlier slide. Excess stock found in case of an SSC opting for presumptive taxation. SSC has opted for presumptive taxation under section 44 AD and is obviously not maintaining the books of accounts. In such a case, excess stock is found. So it is advisable for the SSC to maintain the books of accounts or at least the stock records for explaining to the department. For computation of income, books of accounts are not required. But if he maintains the books of accounts, he will be able to explain to the department if they find any excess or deficiency in physical versus the books of accounts. So it is in the best interest of the SSC to maintain the books of accounts. What is the presumption? Presumption as to books, cash, stock or valuable article or thing found during survey. The presumption is that they belong to that person from whom such information is, such books of accounts are found. That the contents of such books of accounts or documents are true. The handwriting and signature purported to be or reasonably assumed to be of a particular person shall be of that person. But this presumption is rebuttable. It can be challenged. If did not belong to the SSC, if any books of accounts or documents are available in the premises of the SSE, but the SSE says that these do not belong to me, then the SSE must object it on the spot. If the SSE does not object it, then the incriminating evidence found at the premises of the SSE can be used against the taxpayer. The assets found should be properly explained. If they are not properly explained, then they will be treated as undisclosed investments by the department. Pendency of proceedings. It is not a necessary condition that the proceedings must be pending for a survey to be conducted. It is irrelevant whether any assessment proceedings or reassessment proceedings for that year have been initiated or are pending or have been completed. Pendency of proceedings is not a necessary condition for conducting survey. Now we'll discuss about the cases where conversion of survey is done into search. Income tax authority should have reason to believe that a person to whom, even if summons have been or might be issued under section 131 subsection 1, will not or would not produce books of accounts or other documents required. The department should have reason to believe that even if the summons are issued, that person will not cooperate. This was regarding information. What about assets? A person is in possession of some assets. A person has some assets which have not or might not be disclosed to the income tax authorities. Then authorities will be authorized to convert the survey into search under section 132 and seize books of accounts, documents, cash, bullion, jewelry or other valuable article or thing after approaching the competent authority for obtaining a search warrant. If the department feels that even if the summons are issued, the SSE will not give information or the SSE will not show the assets, then after taking approval from the competent authority, they can convert the survey into search. Now, what are the issues in survey? Impact of admission of income, specifying the nature and source of such income. Whenever SSE admits any income during survey, we have to check whether the SSE specifies the nature of such income or not. If the SSE specifies the nature of income, then that income will be considered in that particular head, plus the statutory deductions allowed for that particular income or that particular head will be also given. If the SSE does not specify the nature, then the income will be treated under income from other sources. So it is in the best interest of the SSE to say or specify the nature of the income admitted. Presumption of tax return filed after survey. We will discuss various cases. During survey, unaccounted income is found by the department. Return of income, the time limit for filing the return of income has not expired. Survey is conducted, unaccounted income is found, but the time limit for filing the return of income has not expired. And after survey, the return of income is filed. So, there cannot be a presumption that return has been filed after detection of such unaccounted income. This unaccounted income is found by the department, that's why this is included in the return of income and it is filed. Such presumption cannot be made. Even if it is made, then this will be a rebuttable presumption that the return is filed after detection of the unaccounted income. Reference to Departmental Valuation Officer for Assets other than stock in trade. During survey, reference to the valuation officers will not be made. During assessment proceedings, valuation officers might be called for. But in case survey is conducted at the premises of jewelry, then obviously the department officers will call for valuation officer on the spot. For the stock in trade, that is for stock in trade, the valuation officer can be called on the spot. But for any other asset like immovable property or any other thing, then in that case the departmental valuation officer cannot be called on the spot. During survey, during assessment proceedings, that person can come. Post survey exercise. Assessee must take the survey seriously. He should ensure that the correct facts are recorded. He should ensure that the statement recorded is very specific. He must not try to admit anything or deny anything, because survey is not assessment. If there are any difference in cash, that is cash as per cash book versus physical cash, or there is difference in stock quantity or amount as per the stock records versus physical stock, then he has to reconcile the differences. If the stock records are not maintained on a day-to-day basis, then how is the closing stock calculated? Then the closing stock on the date of survey, how is the closing stock calculated if the stock records are not maintained? This closing stock will be calculated as a balancing figure, like the purchases are recorded, opening stock is recorded, sales are recorded, the sales of the previous months or previous earlier years, that will be compared to the GP, and gross profit percentage is recorded. This GP is applied on this sales figure and GP is found out, and the balancing figure will be the stock. This GP percentage can be of the previous year or average of the previous 2 to 3 previous years. This is how stock is calculated in case the stock records are not maintained by the assessee. Copy of statement and material important must be taken by the assessee. Why? Because the assessee forgets, and it is very important to restore the correct figures or discuss at the time of assessment. The assessee should obtain the statement or the material impounded. If any discrepancy is found of any previous year and assessee files revised return before notice under section 148 is issued, then the penalty cannot be levied. Assessment procedure. For the year of survey, scrutiny under section 143 subsection 3 will be done. No scrutiny if this discussion is as per the last few years scrutiny guidelines. Scrutiny will not be done if additional income is admitted during post survey. Additional income is admitted during post survey and it is included in return of income. Tax is paid, interest is also paid. Then scrutiny will not be done. Plus, incriminating material is also not available with the department. If these two conditions are satisfied, then scrutiny may not be done. What are the remedies available to the assessee after survey assessment? After survey assessment, if the assessee is not happy, what are the remedies available to him? Remedies after survey: assessee has filed return of income, but it is not accepted by the department, and the additions are made which are very huge. So what is the relief available to the assessee? The assessee can go for appeal to CIT appeals or Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, ITAT. He can go to High Court, Supreme Court. He can file a revision petition to Principal Commissioner or Commissioner. He can file interest waiver petition to Principal Chief Commissioner or Chief Commissioner. He can file penalty waiver petition to Principal Chief Commissioner or Principal Commissioner. Or if the issue is complex, then he can even approach the Settlement Commission, and the Settlement Commission has power to waive penalty also. So SSC can file appeal, he can file revision petition, he can file interest waiver petition or penalty waiver petition, or he can even approach the Settlement Commission. Applicability of penalty under section 271(1)(c) in respect of concealment of income. For surveys done up to assessment year 16-17, section 271(1)(c) will be applicable. For survey done on or after assessment year 17-18, section 270(a) will be applicable. Section 271(1)(c). During survey, information relating to year of survey is found, or for the previous year for which return of income is not filed. So survey is conducted. Before survey, return of income is not found, and during survey, information is found regarding the previous year of survey or previous year for which return of income is not filed. Then afterwards, the SSC files return of income and includes such information in the return of income. Then penalty cannot be levied. Another case, as SSC has filed return of income, but assessment is pending. Assessment is pending means section 143(2) notice issued or time for issue of such notice has not expired. Then survey is conducted. During survey, unaccounted income is found which is not included in the return of income filed earlier. SSC has filed the return of income. Return of income has been filed. Assessment proceeding is pending. Then survey is conducted and information is found. We have to check whether time for filing revised return is expired or not. If the time for filing revised return is not expired, then the SSC must be advised to file revised return. And if it is expired, then it depends on the facts and circumstances of each case. Return of income is filed, assessment proceeding is pending, survey information is found which is related to the return of income filed earlier, then the penalty will be levied. The third scenario. Return of income is filed, assessment proceeding is also completed, survey is conducted, unaccounted money is found related to that year which is not included in the return of income. This implies concealment of income and the penalty will be levied. Illegal survey. Illegal survey means a survey which is outside the jurisdiction of outside the powers or outside the jurisdiction of the income tax officers. It is beyond powers, or survey done at wrong premises other than the premises or such other place. For example, survey is required to be done at A's premises. By mistake, the survey authorities do the survey at B's premises. Then there is an interesting point here. Though the survey which is conducted at B's premises by mistake is illegal, no doubt, but the information found during illegal survey also can be used by the department against the taxpayer. I repeat, survey was required to be done at A's premises, but the department did survey by mistake at B's premises. This is nothing but illegal survey. Even if it is illegal survey, the department can use the information obtained during illegal survey against B. If survey is done during unspecified hours, if the statement is recorded on oath, it is called illegal survey. There is an important point here which I explained you just now. Though it is illegal, the incriminating material found can be used against SSC. In our example, he is B. If survey is illegal, the SSC can file a writ before the High Court. What is the implication of survey on GST? If during the survey proceedings it is found that SSC has understated his tax liability under GST or other revenue laws, then additional tax, interest and penalty under such other laws will be applicable. Penalty can be saved if the SSC discloses and pays the additional tax to the respective department before the same is detected by the respective authorities. Survey under section 133A subsection 5, that is functions, events or ceremonies. SSC does a lavish marriage of his children, or there is a function or ceremony, huge expenditure is incurred by the SSC. In such cases, the income tax authority can ask any person to furnish information about the expenditure. But there is an important point here. Function is going on. So when can the income tax authority enter and ask for the information? The Act says the powers under section 133A subsection 5 can be invoked only after the function. These powers of function, ceremony or event. The Act tries to protect the SSCs so that there is no disturbance caused by the department while the function of the SSC or the ceremony of the SSC is going on. Only after the function or ceremony, the income tax officers can enter the premises and ask for the information. The information or recording of statement can be done from the SSC or some other person. So what is the difference between survey and search? First point, can residents or other branches be surveyed or searched? In case of survey, no. If the books of accounts and etc. are kept at residence, then it can be surveyed, but the powers are restricted to only the books of accounts of business. In case of search, the residents and other branches will be searched simultaneously at the same day, same time. So what about the cost involved? As survey is done only at the business or professional premises of the SSC, the cost of conducting survey is lower when compared to cost of conducting search. The powers of survey officers are lesser when compared to the search officers. Is seizure of cash allowed? In case of survey, seizure of cash is not allowed, but in case of search, seizure of cash is allowed. What about seizure of stock? This is very important, that whether it is survey or search, stock of the business, that is stock in trade, cannot be seized. Reason to believe is required to conduct survey? No. To conduct search? Yes, reason to believe is required. Thank you for watching this video. I hope the concept of survey is clear to you now. If you have any queries, you can email me at haa.vivek@gmail.com. You can ask me queries by writing to me on this email address. If you like my video, do hit the like button just below the video. Share this video to your other friends who might find this video useful. Do click on the subscribe button just below the video. You'll find a subscribe button. Hit on that button, and beside the subscribe button you will find a bell icon. If you click on this bell icon, this bell icon will be displayed just beside the subscribe button. First click on the subscribe button, then next click on this bell icon. If you hit on these two, you'll get notifications whenever I'll upload any other video. This is CA Vivek Nahadia. Thank you for watching.